Good morning, guys. What's going on? It is cold in South Carolina. We're letting the car warm up a little bit this morning. But there's a topic that I really wanted to talk about right away this morning that I've been thinking about ever since last night, since I was kind of wrapping up the evening watching a couple videos. I came across the video that was just posted, and I think it may have just been posted last night, in fact, by a guy that I really respect when it comes to information about these cars, the Q50s and Q60s and 3.0, 3.0T platform and the 3.7 liter, which I have. His name is Midwest Hoonigan. You may or may not have heard of him. If you're watching this video, chances are you've probably seen his videos. I will put a link in the description of the video below, so you can check it out. The specific video that I'm referencing here. This video in particular discussed some of the modifications, or some of the best modifications that you can do to the 3.7 liter. Now, my issue is not with the video per se. He gave a lot of great information, a lot of stuff I agree with. However, my issue is with some of the comments that pop up in regard to these cars. As expected, you see things like the best modification is sell the 3.7 and buy a 3.0T, blah blah. Funny enough, I give it to you. But one of the comments, in fact, that made me want to make this video was that you have to spend $5,000 to get full bolt on these cars, and you still maybe only get 70 horsepower with the tune. Fair enough on the point about only 70 horsepower gain after a tune. It seems to be that 340, 350 is probably the maximum that we're going to be able to push out of these cars with just the typical performance modifications and a tune, which that's a whole other conversation. But the point that you have to spend $5,000 to get full bolt on or $5,000 to get maximum performance out of these cars, it's just nonsense. I would reference I would reference the video that I posted yesterday, my Christmas list. Those are some modifications that are relatively inexpensive, and the ones that you will need to get maximum performance out of this particular platform. But since we're here, I'll talk about it really quickly. Now, what needs to be done to maximize performance on these cars, really at any car? What do people do? What modifications do people do to get higher horsepower and higher torque numbers on their vehicles? Air intake systems, exhaust modifications, and a tune. Those are the three categories that you need to address to get maximum performance. With that being said, it seems to be pretty common knowledge, or pretty clear, that the cold air intake setups for these cars yield very little results. So I don't think it's necessary to spend the $300, $400, $500 on an intake system necessarily, unless you're really trying to eke out every single little horsepower. I don't think it's worth it. In fact, I've been talking to a shop kind of in this vicinity in North Carolina. Their suggestion is drop-in filters. That's it. The intake system really is not a hindrance in these cars, and in fact, they had some very good luck tuning a 3.7 to 336 horsepower at the wheels with just drop-in filters, silicone intake tubes, and a muffler delete with an Accutech or ECU Tech tune, if I'm not mistaken. So while we're talking about, let's keep track of the price as we go along. We'll see just what it takes to get these cars where they need to be. So again, drop-in filters, $100 about, $50 each side. Silicone intake tubes, another $100, so we're at $200. You can then throw in some high flow cats, resonated test pipes, or just the straight test pipes, and open up the airflow a bit. Depending on what kind of person you are, if you need the best name brand, the most expensive stuff, you can spend a lot of money on these items. But the reality is, if a quality steel is used and the welds are decent, as long as they're not super cheap and there's fitment issues, there won't be a problem. So you could spend, let's say, $150. So now we're at $350. This is where you could really make a decision to go further back in the exhaust system. If you want to really get some high flow stuff, you could go to an exhaust shop local to you, and I'm sure they'd be willing to straight pipe it for you. There's not a lot of crazy bends in this system. It doesn't have to go up and over the rear axle, so it's pretty simple. They could just straight pipe it for you, probably charge you $200. Your car's gonna be loud as an MFer and probably sound like crap, to be quite honest, but the air's gonna be flowing. But let's do something a little different. Let's do an upgraded Y pipe. We'll open up the diameter of the exhaust a bit more, at least for that portion. Reduce the bottleneck that is in that area where both sides of the exhaust meet in that Y in the stock setup. Very, 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 very narrow opening. The aftermarket Y pipe is going to get that flow going. Even if your mid pipe diameter doesn't change at all, because it's straight through, there's very little resistance actually. So an upgraded Y pipe is going to make a huge difference. Again, if you're not one of those guys that needs the super high dollar stuff just because it's high dollar, you could get away with spending $150 on a Y pipe. So $350 and another $150, we're at $500. Muffler delete, or just to finish it out the back end. Again, there's some systems out there that are $500, $800, $1,000 or more for an axleback system. That is insane. The reality is, unless you're going for a very specific tone, you don't have to spend that kind of money. I had a custom axleback system set up, basically a muffler delete from a shop in town, charged $100. That's it. So let's say $600 from intake through to finish the exhaust, and now move on to the tune. An Accutech tune with dyno runs at a shop, $600 to $800. Maybe a shop might go crazy and charge you $1,000 or $1,100, but you get real dyno pulls. You get true specific tunes to your vehicle. And now we're at, even, let's say $1,100 for a tune at the top end, you're at $1,700. So now you have a car that's making 340 horsepower for less than $2,000. So just to address that claim that $5,000 is needed to get maximum performance out of this car, garbage. And just to reiterate that point, that you don't need the super big name brand products. I've always been a guy that's more function over form in some ways. There are some auto parts that you get what you pay for, as is life. You don't want to skimp on tires. You don't want to skimp on wheels. They can be out around. They can be super heavy. They can break. There's suspension. You don't want to skimp on suspension. But when it comes to metal tubing is metal tubing, honestly. As long as it's a high quality stainless steel, and the guy you got welding it up knows how to lay a halfway decent bead that can be cleaned up or look decent as is, it's not a problem. So like I said, I always go back to the axleback systems that are $800 or $1,000. It's just crazy. Unless the less expensive form doesn't fit properly, you really shouldn't have an issue on finding a deal. I guess I'll be a guinea pig or a test subject. I'm going to try to do this as inexpensively as possible without sacrificing quality. Again, it goes back to form over function. You want to get maximum performance, but unless you're trying to build a show car where you park at a meet or you park at a car show and you put mirrors under your car, I don't need the shiniest exhaust setup. I don't need the fanciest looking thing. I don't need the fancy name badges. In all honesty, I just want it to work. If you can get something that works for $100, why would you spend $5? Right? It's just common sense. So that's what we're gonna do. That's kind of been the challenge for myself. I haven't stated it really to anyone, but that's kind of something that I have in my mind. I want to spend less than $2,000. My goal is kind of $1,800, and I want to make 340 horsepower to the wheels. So that's the goal. That's my motivator. And obviously when I say less than $2,000, I'm not talking suspension, I'm not talking wheels and tires. Those are obviously going to add an element to this, more expensive element to this overall build, as well as exterior and cosmetic modifications. But we're just talking about simply creating horsepower. I will say this, that $1,800 for 70 horsepower is a joke. Honestly, I understand that, totally well aware of it. I'm used to, I may have mentioned before, coming from the V8 world, Mustangs and Camaros and things of that nature. Whatever your opinion is about those vehicles, it doesn't matter. The fact is that, in a 1995 Mustang GT with the 5.0, you could spend $300 and get 70, 80 horsepower by opening up the exhaust. That's the kind of horsepower per dollar that I'm used to and that I like to see. So it was kind of a shock to me to think that I have to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to get 60, 70 horsepower. So I will admit that fully. But it's a totally different story when you knowingly spend $300, $400, $500 on a cold air intake system that has been proven to get you only 1 or 2 additional horsepower, if anything at all. Again, it just doesn't make sense. It's almost like people are buying those things just to say they have them, and I'm not. That's just not how I roll. So I guess that's it. I'll wrap it up. Hopefully this was short enough. Don't forget to check out the link below to Midwest Hoonigan's modification video. Click on some of those cards that went across the top of the screen and take a look at some of my previous videos that kind of touch on this subject as well. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully it was helpful. Let me know some of your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate you watching. See you next time.